So this is a topic that's been very popular over the past decade or so, and it is the concept of the microbiome. So I knew that there would be a paper put out looking at the microbiome and COVID-19 severity, and this paper came out last week. It says gut microbiota composition reflects disease severity and dysfunctional immune responses in patients with COVID-19. So in this study, what they did is they looked at patients in two hospitals and obtained blood and stool samples and patient records from about 100 patients. And from 27 of them, they were able to get stool samples over a 30-day period. And then they did shotgun sequencing of the total DNA from the stools and then profiled their microbiome and then compared it with disease severity and inflammatory cytokines. The reason that the shotgun sequencing is important is that we've discovered that a lot of the bacteria in the gut only grow in the gut. We can't grow them in culture um, outside the gut. So you can only capture them by sequencing them rather than by trying to grow them. So this sequencing is a way to capture them. And the whole idea behind it, for those of you that are not maybe familiar with the microbiome, is that we've realized that there are trillions of bacteria in our gut, in our skin, in our mucosal surfaces throughout our body. And these bacteria perform a lot of functions. At first, we just thought they were there, but we realize now that they interact with our body quite intimately, and they're very connected to our immune system, among other things, and actually control a lot of our brain function as well. And so there's been a lot of study on what these organisms are, which ones seem to be beneficial, which diseases they're associated with, and they're associated with a wide range of diseases. In this case, they were looking at the microbiome profile and COVID-19. Here's what they found out. So let's look at this study first. They looked at patients with mild, moderate, severe, and critical disease, and you can see that although there's a lot of overlap, the microbiome profiles of people with different disease severity do cluster together somewhat. So it appears that disease severity might be affected by what kind of microbiome you have in your gut. And this is a graph that shows the correlation of different cytokines with different components of the microbiome. So as the abundance of different bacteria change, the cytokine responses change. And this is important because we know that a lot of the damage that COVID-19 does is mediated by your immune system. So it's not the virus itself that causes the lung problems and the clotting problems. It's your immune system's response that causes the inflammation that causes the lung damage and the clotting and the cytokine release syndrome and all these other problems that really make people sick. So, since we know that the gut microbiome controls your immune system, it just makes sense that it may be playing a role in the severity of COVID-19. This is a paper from 2016 that looked at the gut microbiome and inflammatory cytokine production capacity. And in this paper, in the summary, they note that gut microbiome dysbiosis, so perturbations, are linked to aberrant immune responses accompanied by abnormal production of inflammatory cytokines. And it's a crucial factor in modulating immune responses and linked to many autoimmune and immune diseases. So it's been well known for many years now that the gut microbiome affects how your immune system functions. And since susceptibility to infectious diseases and our immune response to infectious diseases are important, it just stands to reason that the gut microbiome and your composition of it would affect how likely you are to get it and how easily you fight it off, how much damage you may incur from your immune responses to the virus. There's two review papers which I thought were very good that I will link in the description, and they talk about how um, a healthy microbiome, um, how to promote a healthy microbiome. One of the things that many people may have heard of is probiotics, and they think, well, great, I'll just take a lot of probiotics. But what the problem with probiotics is that the effect of probiotics on our microbiome is very transient. Yeah, so the impact of probiotics on microbial communities is individualized and transient. And that just makes sense because when you take in a probiotic, it's like throwing seeds in your lawn. If your lawn is set up to grow the seeds, then they're going to take root. However, if you put it in the desert or you throw it on your driveway, it's just the environment does not promote growth of that thing. So it will only grow for a little while. What needs to happen is you need to make the environment um, conducive to the bacteria that you want to grow. And also, the other problem with probiotics is, like we said, most of the microbiome cannot be grown in culture, so cannot be given to you by probiotics. And probiotics only provide the bacteria that we know is beneficial. It doesn't provide the bacteria that we don't know about yet, which is the vast majority of them, because there are thousands and thousands of species that are involved. And most probiotics are, some kind of lactobacillus or other bacteria. They give you like two or three bacteria. So probiotics are not an efficient way of improving your microbiome, and probably just a waste of money. What's more important is these prebiotics. And what that means is you make the environment conducive to a healthy microbiome. So what is important is plant-based foods such as fruits, vegetables, legumes, grains, and nuts contain dietary fiber. While fiber as a whole is generally accepted to be beneficial to gastrointestinal health, specific dietary fiber types, including inulin, phos, and GOS, are considered prebiotic. And regular insoluble fiber is also considered prebiotic because they um, they promote a environment that's good for them. And so if you look through all the papers, you'll find out what's important is generally a wide variety of plant-based foods with a lot of fiber and a variety that gives you the environment to promote a healthy microbiome. And this paper says short-term dietary modifications don't work very well. They do change it transiently, but in order to keep it the same, you need to um, continue with the diet habitually for a long time. And generally, your microbiome stays pretty stable over your life because your diet stays pretty stable over life. So that was an interesting study that we were kind of expecting that microbiome diversity, microbiome profile affects the disease severity and your cytokine response to COVID-19, which is not surprising based on what we know. And it's just another factor that shows that being healthy overall does improve your susceptibility to severe disease. The way to improve that is not by short-term things like probiotics, but by long-term things like dietary. Okay, so if you have any questions, please comment below, and thanks for watching.